how do you do the system for lending things. And we also have the people find to these places. So we said if we want to lend toys, we should do it together with the libraries. So that's where I started, and because I also felt that we needed someone from the public sector to found the place, the local, the area, and the people working there. So I wouldn't be able to always try to find new funding instead of try to develop the things that already exist. And then with the private sector, it's because we needed the toys, and we needed money to develop things, and we also needed, in one way, we have a lot of Fabege are the ones that rent the buildings, so they help us. For example, the public sector pays what we have, but where we have our stock, do you say that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they pay for that. And when the NGOs, because they're the experts when it comes to the UN Convention on the Child and Environment. So we created, Retoy it's created and developed in partnership with others.
One question, we were talking about that before, to make it sustainable and not to be really dependent on anyone else.
Yeah.
How did you get in contact with these institutions and companies? Did you have a network? Did you go to a presentation? Practically, how did you do? What did you sell?
Yeah, very good question. I just started when Sadia and I was talking when we developed this idea, and everything when you feel now you just have to get started in doing it. So I did two things. One is that I identified people that I admired and that I felt have done kind of similar things, and I called them and was like, how did you do it? To get a lot of inspiration and tips from other people that already have done it from different sectors. And the other thing was just that I just started calling. I called the head of the libraries in Sweden and said, I have this great idea, and I described it, and she's like, okay, come here, and we had a meeting. And then I think when you really it's kind of contagious when you work something that's so close to your heart. So it's it's hard to say no when you walk into it. It's we have to do it. And especially things that are driven by values in this way. It's it's not that I want to lend toys. It's that when you get the whole background, it's this is the challenge that we have in society, and it's one of the solutions that I think actually can make a difference. And also, always put in, because all of the sector, I think it's what's in it for me. And we always try to develop, to make sure that we have sustainable corporations. It's really important to present in which way Retoy actually makes it easier for them to reach their own goals and aims in one way. So it's for the libraries, they needed to find new ways of reaching children, because a lot of children maybe today don't visit the library because they buy books, or they actually read the books in the iPad instead. So they needed to find ways to reach more children. So when I said it's you need to, if you make places where children can play and also maybe lend toys, then a lot of children will come. And in that way you introduce them to books and reading and other stuff. So for them it was really to try to develop that part. For UNICEF, for example, they were lacking, and they also get a lot of criticisms because they didn't have any material to work with younger children to make sure that they know their own rights. So it's if we develop Retoy, you can develop this too, places where children know about their rights. And for this cooperation was also that they needed new ways of trying to interact with their future consumers, and also to find new ways to make things more sustainable. And for them it's really a big value also to work with NGOs that maybe often criticize them, and instead of waiting for that, trying to work together and try to be proactive and not get the criticism in that way. But it's also been the big challenge as working as an entrepreneur. You have a lot of visions, is to try to make them concrete. And it's we have to start here. And first of all, I have to find the funding for the pilot and to make this pilot that we're developing now. And after that, you can solve the other problems. Because I think one of the obstacles is sometimes that also if you're an entrepreneur, you have a lot of ideas. And I can be we can do that, and we can do that, and then we can do that, and then people are oh my God. It's It's so much easier. It's like we start here, and it's really a challenge. You might like to focus and like getting back to the core of it all the time, and to get that done, and then you can develop other things. For me, for example, I'm like 10 years ahead of Retoy. And it's like the pilot, it already happened like 5 years ago in my head. So it takes a lot of time to get there. And I have to like be true to that and realize that even if I'm already like thinking about all of the other stuff I want to do. And that's also really important. Did I answer your questions? Do you have?
Yes, I want to clarify. So did you actually do a contract with these people for some time or
Yeah.
what was the way and
We will start with talking and meetings, and then we developed, the first was a letter of intent, like to get started working together. And with the library was a letter of intent. It mostly is like, what is it that we would like to develop? And then when we got like a steps ahead in that, we developed contracts with all of our partners. And it's also been new for me to like have like deals with the contract. Yeah. And well, with the libraries, it's like 10 years. But it's renewed every year. Yeah. And with the other ones, like 3 years, but also renewable. And the ambition, it says in all the countries, is to like have this very long. But first of all, we have to test things. And it's also like always, even in relationship, it's one thing when you're in love and everything is so beautiful and you're sharing the vision and everything's like, oh, this is going to be for life and we really understand each other. And then when you get to the daily life and struggle, that's when you really find if you can actually do things together or not. And it's the same thing with this kind of cooperation. So it's like in the beginning, it's like, wow! And then you like have to get through it. But the thing is also, if you compare it to love affairs in one way, it's like if you've really been in love in the beginning, it's so much easier to get through those hard times because there's so much love like in the bottom of it. And it's the same here. It's really important when you develop and like if you want a long life or sustainable corporations to be sure that you share the core values and that you share the vision. Because if you work with partners that don't share your core values and don't share the vision, it gets really, really hard.
I have a question. Did you contact them as an individual, or you had registered a company or an NGO and then you contact them?
Very good question. I started and I contacted as an individual. I just said, hi, my name is Soledad and I have this idea. And because it's like you always have to get started. And the idea develops when you're in dialogue with other people. And at least for me, it's like that. I'm not really good at like thinking for myself. It's like when I talk to other people that I realize. So Sadia and I was talking and we said this is what we wanted to do, and I just like pick up the phone and called a lot of people. Yes. And then after, I realized, for example, when I talk, one of our biggest founder is a foundation that pays my salary for the coming 3 years. It's like they did this, how is it, stipendium? Yeah. And then it was also that they said, because I was also challenged with it, what do I make a corporation? Should I make a foundation? Should it be an NGO? And I wanted to be a social entrepreneur and I wanted to do things in a kind of business kind of way. But then I also realized that the easiest way was to start with a foundation that can own a company. So like in the long term, we're going to have the foundation owns a company. So Sadia and I founded a foundation because it's so much easier to found the pilot being a foundation than being a business. And but that actually was